Thank you guys. How you guys doing? Having fun? Enjoying Techweek? Yeah, claps. Why not? So I'm going to bring out Laura Kreitler, Vice President of Partnerships for Zenefits, and we're going to have a really interesting conversation today. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Make sure
Hi.
You're on. So we're so fresh to this party that we still have our Techweek badges on. I'm going to set it down for 1 second so it's not dangling by the mic. She's not. She's going to leave.
I'm going to wear it. How are you guys? Awesome.
So I'm very excited to have you here for a number of reasons. Most notably, and it's funny timing-wise, I actually had no idea, one, a week ago that I was going to be talking to you, but two, I didn't know you were going to follow up Mike Serbinis from League. And a little backstory here, I had Mike in my studio literally like at noon till like 1. And so he's just walking off here and we're talking, and not during our show, but on the off part of it, we talked about the need for companies and startups to learn a lot more. At least this was my position. Yep. We need to learn a lot more about benefits in HR.
Yep.
And he said to me, as a person who's been now exited almost $1 billion, that companies of all sizes need to learn a lot more about HR and benefits. Mm-hmm. And so to have you here sitting here, it was like, oh, I've got a million questions, and so I'm going to ask you, like 6 of them, but cool. It's going to be a good show.
Awesome.
So I guess let's start off with a pack for anyone here who doesn't know. What is Zenefits?
Well, I'd love to see, well, first of all, go Cats. I actually am a Northwestern Kellogg grad, so it's great to be back in Chicago. I love the city.
Same here.
And then secondly, I'd love to see a show of hands who's familiar with Zenefits. Do you guys know who we are? You may have seen some headlines. Yeah. We really, I think, define the category for all-in-one HR. So the name obviously implies benefits, but we also do HR management and payroll. Recently actually launched payroll in Illinois in May, but we got our start 3 years ago or 4 years ago now with a founder by the name of Parker Conrad, and have grown and have seen now 2 CEO changes. I've been with the company for almost 3 years, so I think one of the reasons why I'm sitting here today to talk about the journey is because I've been in that journey, and I've been, privy to the leadership of the CEOs that have come before me. So come before our current CEO, Jay Fulcher.
So I think that's you bring up a really good point, and it's almost accidentally, but you guys are a startup for all intents and purposes on your own right, one that's growing incredibly quickly, and some people actually at this point maybe don't even consider you or think of you as a startup company, but Chicago, now I don't know how many times this has been thrown out this week, but now with the 3rd largest startup community in the country, maybe in the world, in the top 5, I think that we forget that a lot of these big companies have a lot of turnover before they get to that Grubhub side name. It's rarely one CEO. Mm-hmm. And so what I think is unique about Zenefits and what I'm looking to kind of capture from you today is, what are some of the things that you guys have learned as an organization that help you serve all of us out there?
Right. I'd say first you said turnover, and I think about just the employee onboarding process and how, whether you're a small company or a larger company, and we serve companies from 2 to 1,000 employees, that's really our range, how that onboarding process can be so onerous. That's actually our number 1 product that people love the most, is how simple that onboarding process is for an HR leader. But I think just going back to the value of our platform, it's really helps people save time, money, and it makes the HR person that much more strategic and able to focus on higher value things. So from an onboarding perspective, we use Zenefits. Zenefits runs on Zenefits. We have obviously onboarded all of our employees on it. In terms of learnings, we obviously, this past year has been a really big sort of reset, reboot, regrowth year for us. We reset our relationship with our investors, with the regulators, with customers, with employees, and as part of that, the regulation piece, we built a Salesforce app called Licensing Plus. So that came out of our learning around licensure for the brokerage community. We built this, which is free. It helps brokers as well as carriers manage that licensing process, which can be onerous, especially when you're managing multiple licenses across multiple salespeople across multiple states. So I think that's a really clear example of where we took an area where we obviously, there were a lot of learnings that came out of that and turned it into something good. I think also just basic compliance around HR is really hard to navigate, whether you're a 2-person company or a 1,000-person company. So we figured out ways to build that into our software to help companies navigate that. So saying, hey, you just hired your ex-employee, you're getting pretty close to that 50-employee mark, like you're going to be subject to additional laws and regs as you trip these various points in the evolution of your company. So those are just a couple.
So I think this is not to be the master of the obvious here, but I think that one of the things that scares me as a CEO, particularly as we start to onboard, I mean, for us, I've been a one-man band, as Amanda alluded to, coming on here. Before Technori, I was a one-man band running a podcast trying to figure out how am I going to make money out of this. When I had the chance to merge/acquire, depending on what paper you read, to Technori a year ago, we brought on quickly 4 people. And now we're in a position to put on 12 people. And my brain is about to explode out of my ears.
Do you need an HR platform? No.
We are going to be, and there's one that I have an eye on for one particular reason. As a CEO of to me, it's becoming a bigger company, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a 1,000-person company. Yeah. I'm starting to handle QuickBooks. I'm starting to handle that app. I'm starting to handle this, Salesforce, all these other tools that we use. And if I add another app to my life, I think I'm going to freak out. And so what Zenefits does so cool, what I liked about the platform when I first learned about it more than almost a year ago that I first was turned on to Zenefits, is that all of these many apps you create can lock into one online dashboard.
Yeah. So I actually just got back. I was in New Orleans this week for SHRM, their big annual conference, Society for Human Resource Management. There were over 18 HCM vendors, so human capital management vendors, and everybody is now touting all-in-one. So there's a huge need for us. The biggest takeaway for me was we're not doing enough to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. The biggest differentiator, one of them, I think for me, is what Scott's alluding to, which is the app marketplace. So Zenefits, we've recognized we do a lot of things well. We have a lot of awesome first-party apps from payroll to time and attendance, PTO, but we also recognize there's awesome third-party apps that we want to give our users the choice to integrate into our platform. So we have over 40 different technology partners that now integrate pretty seamlessly into Zenefits. Some of that is actually IT provisioning, and some of it is much deeper. For instance, if you use Greenhouse for applicant tracking, if you decide to hire somebody, that information flows into our system, which makes onboarding that much easier. So I think that concept of user choice, we will continue to build awesome product, but we will also, I think, continue to leverage third parties in areas where it makes sense so that our users have that optionality. And I think payroll is a great one to point out. Parkwiz is actually a customer of ours. They're here in Chicago. They use Zenefits payroll. But Powered Health, which was just on, which was also Zenefits customer, I think integrates with ADP. So we want to, in some ways, be agnostic.
And I was going to say, so there's 2 sides to this. I mean, and I look again, trying to put on like the customer, CEO who's a customer of Zenefits, as well as someone who runs a company and trying to think of like what is good business for Zenefits. And I look at this and think, at the end of the day, there's so many technologists, there's so many founders out there creating different tools and apps. It's such a very quick and crazy pace that a lot of new business owners are finding these random apps across the platform. And I think what makes it challenging is if you start with this app, and I'm going to use Salesforce again as an example just because it's maybe all I know. If I start with a certain app, call it Pardot on Salesforce, if I grow and I want to try to switch over to another platform, things get incredibly complicated. And that, I think, is the one real mistake that a lot of the other one single platform people are, because it's like if I can't, I'm not going to go switch all my stuff over to you.
Right.
And what I love about what you guys do is you find different tools that are not your own and enable me to sort of plug and play and not change what I'm doing. And it gives you the ability to stay ahead of the curve from a business standpoint for you. Right. But it's an incredible ease and a reduction of barrier for me as the CEO.
Right. Yeah, I think that's sort of our logic in really investing in the app platform, and also opening up our APIs, which we did last fall, so that we can continue to encourage that kind of cross, invite more technologies to integrate with ours.
So I want to ask a couple questions sort of broadly to the crowd. Just raise your hands. How many of you, if you're business owners or not, whatever, how many of you are familiar with or using some sort of platform for HR, for payroll?
Couple.
And how many of those people own their own company? Re-raise if you're, okay. So the reason I ask that is because among we're at 300 companies now have been on stage or on our studio. I ask them all the time, what are some of the things we can help you with? And payroll and HR is the one where they kind of look at us like they don't want to ask because they're scared that if they say that and I ask a follow-up question and they say, we don't do like Excel sheet, that I'm going to like laugh at them and kick them off the stage.
Yeah. So I actually joined Zenefits as a former user. I was a small business owner. I ran a clean tech company in the ag space for 5 years. Parker Conrad, our founder, was actually a friend. I had lunch with him. He was like telling me what he was up to. He's about to submit his company into the YC competition, and I was like, holy crap, if you build that thing, I want it because I am drowning. I'm wearing multiple hats. I know I'm not getting all this stuff right. I'm running payroll. I'm staying up late to figure out benefits. There's got to be a better way. So I said, if you build this, I want it, and then I want to come work for you. And it's funny how that sort of happened. But we have companies that are on our platform. I was speaking with an admin. Her name is Marina. She runs 6 special needs schools in DC. She has over 90 employees. She has basically been able to be the person who fields the HR requests, runs payroll, and manages benefits. She hasn't had to hire anybody since using Zenefits. So I think for her, it's additional money in her pocket to hire another educator. So I think that there's tremendous value, and for small companies starting out, I think the ability for us to really help you grow in your journey. We have a lot of different ways we do that, but something that I'm proud of as a former customer.
So a person who's been along for the ride since it's, not necessarily since it was founded per se, but I mean essentially knowing about Zenefits as a tool before they go to YC. Why don't, there's still a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are going to be cycling in and out of this room throughout our talk. Why don't we talk a little bit about sort of the journey and the growth of Zenefits, and you also, not just Zenefits, but you as you've sort of grown up in this company and what you've seen and what you've learned and how it's shaped the way that not only Zenefits is developing, but also you as far as forging partnerships.
Sure. When I joined Zenefits, I think we had, there were a couple hundred employees. And so under Parker, under his leadership, we grew to about, I want to say 1,600, and now we're back to 400. So seeing that evolution has been really interesting. I do credit Parker for having the vision to bring Zenefits to life and to be able to galvanize an amazing team behind him to execute. And then with Sachs coming in, he was a true product genius. David Sachs was an amazing leader in terms of giving us true focus on product, and really what led to the total relaunch of our platform last fall. Jay Fulcher, who's our new CEO, he joined the company in February. He is a SaaS HR leader. He has that experience, and I think he's going to help us really bring discipline to the business. And he always talks about best in class. He wants us to be best in class product, best in class support, best in class employees. I think for him, it's really how do we take this amazing product that still has very relevant. I think the most powerful thing about us is our product market fit. Like, that has not changed despite kind of the journey that we've been on and the ups and downs. And how do we take that and really move it to the next level? And I think he was CEO of Uyala previously. He was CEO of Agile. Previous to that, he worked at PeopleSoft and SAP, so he has that background.
I was going to say leader is almost an undersell for him. I heard him speak before he took over at Zenefits. I got a chance to hear him speak a couple different times at some conferences and was pretty impressed with what he's doing. I have no doubt that it's going to show itself in the development side of, not that you need it, but in the development side of the platform itself and how it's, I guess, how sophisticated it becomes. So I'm super excited about that. As we kind of mentioned, I want to kind of learn a little bit about you personally also. I think that it's important. I know it's important I categorize myself as a millennial by birth, but like by everything else, I would prefer not to be called a millennial. But that said, I hire a lot of them. And I find that when we're not working for some sort of a mission, some sort of a cause, something greater than the job and paycheck, it gets stale quickly, and you're in a business that could be that, easily. Yeah. How do you keep yourself not just engaged and motivated, but how do you keep yourself feeling like the fabric of Zenefits is part of you?
Yeah. I keep wanting to write a blog post about how like leadership and management development, you can relate it to Pokemon Go. I think you're on this quest, you have to be focused on something bigger than yourself, that you have support along the way, whether that's in the form of like power packs, leadership development, mentorship, coaching, and then I'm totally blanking on the third.
I'm sure it's important.
It is important. But anyway, I think what has kept me at Zenefits, and I joined as a former, COO. I joined the founder, who was the scientist. I was the business person in my prior company. I was the COO. I ran CFO. I ran everything, and I joined Zenefits as I think a senior manager. So that was a little bit humbling, but I was totally in believed in the product and the company, and was like, I don't care. I just want to come work for this place. And I think what has kept me there has been the people. We have an incredible team, even though we're back down to kind of the 450, 500 mark. The people who are there truly bleed orange. Their love for our customers and doing right by our customers is unlike anything I've ever seen. I actually ran into a former employee at the SHRM conference in New Orleans who said, I miss Zenefits, I miss that culture, that just like fanatical focus on doing right by customer and creating an awesome product. But so again, I love the people. I feel like I continue to learn. That has been something that's obviously crucial. And I'm passionate about what we do in terms of really helping small business and medium-sized business navigate the craziness of trying to figure out compliance, payroll, all the stuff that is really core, but can be very distracting from distract you from executing on the vision of whatever it is you're doing. And so I feel like we are helping support innovation by alleviating leaders from dealing with all the minutia and kind of the junk associated with running a business.
So you kind of brought this up almost tangentially in here, but it's a good point that was made, which is that there's a startup culture at Zenefits. Again, you're a startup company, but there's something about, we do it here with Outcome Health and obviously Groupon before that, and Raise, and almost Spot Hero pretty soon here, where you talked about Parkways. I got to throw the other parking champ out there. Where you start to get like 300, 400, 500, 600, 1,000 people, and it doesn't feel like a startup, at least from the outside looking in. And I think it's incredibly vital that people who work at any company understand how important a startup culture is. I think it helps, certainly in your business, it helps to serve people like me and much bigger businesses than myself when we can relate to you. Yeah. When we can you understand what we're doing, and I feel like you're bought in kind of like into your company. It makes the other companies we've met with, and there's been plenty in the HR payroll space, can be a little stuffy sometimes, and it's like, do you really get what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I think on the culture piece, for a long time, I think our culture was growth. We didn't have time to think about much more. I think today, beginning with David Sachs, when he took over, he implemented something called the Core Value Awards. So every month, every employee nominates as many employees as they want, really, to be recognized for three things: integrity, operating with integrity. The second one is putting the customer first, and the second is employees, or making Zenefits a great place to work. I think that was really important and has continued to shape the company, and Jay is really taking that to the next level. In his inaugural email to employees, he said, and this resonated with me, he said, unequivocally, in my experience, culture always trumps strategy. And I think that's something that, especially as folks in the room have founded companies, if you're sort of early stage, or you have such an opportunity to really define that culture now. I think with Zenefits, culture is something that is like a living, breathing thing. There's no silver bullet to fixing it or shaping it. You have to sort of plant things, and my other analogy is it's like steering a tanker. You can start to turn the wheel now and make change, but you're really not going to see the kind of implications until much later. So I think with Jay, his focus is really the discipline of becoming, a best-in-class at sort of the SaaS, like bigger SaaS enterprise level is his focus.
Well, I think it's key, right? I mean, as we grow and you start to scale into this, you're going to become another version of Zenefits and another and another and another. And I think it's key that at each level, it's not just like sharpening the tool that we were originally like, oh, we repositioned our marketing strategy. No, it's like you've got to grow the platform, and Jay brings on a whole nother level where maybe the focus before, like you said, was growth. So we had someone who was really focused on getting our brand out there and getting us going. And then the next level is like, all right, now it's customer service. We want to make sure that we are one of the best customer service providers. And now it's like, well, we got those things.
Yeah.
Now we want to be great at.
And I think that's a good point. There are things that we didn't want to change about our culture. And I think one of them in particular was that maniacal focus on customer. And the second, I think, really on being a disruptor and an innovator. And that's the spirit that comes with that and kind of the type of people that attracts from a recruiting perspective. Those are things that we didn't want to change, that we definitely wanted to hang on to. And I think I think the core of every great tech company or company in general are people that really want to continue to change and think differently and think bigger.
I think that's probably why we all gave up our day jobs, or those of us who have, to do this. Is like, there's a joke around it, obviously. Why would I quit working 40 hours a week to work 100 to make nothing? Yeah. But there's a certain part of, I think, about the makeup of an entrepreneur, which is probably another reason why Zenefits relates to a lot of entrepreneurs as they start their businesses. Like, I want to take out as many little things that I do every day that are a waste of time. I'm so analytical about it. I measure everything. And so when I look at what you guys do, and I think about as we grow our companies and as the people out here continue to grow their companies, how important it is that they maintain that, I don't want to say entrepreneurial itch, but like that just constant hunger to be better, but still, like, obviously not lose who they were in it.
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge.
I throw it out there. So I guess, we have 8 minutes and 34, 33, 32 seconds left with you people. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I figured we could go into sort of a little bit of advice and things you might have for people who are starting their businesses, different things that maybe people don't know when it comes to HR and things like that. And just, I don't know, I guess I'm looking for a little tutelage as well.
Sure. I'll go back, a little bit to our product and the platform. What's so cool about us, I think, as well, is that we grow with you. We last fall at our user conference, when we rehauled the platform, unveiled this app approach to HR management. So you can decide if you want to turn things on, as you grow. A good example for Benefits is a company that is actually direct-to-consumer tile manufacturer, but it's like a tech company. It's called Fireclay Tile in the Bay Area. I know Eric, the founder. He said that with Zenefits, pre-Zenefits, life and benefits administration was a nightmare. He said he didn't even really know how to provide life and disability to his employees. But through us, I think through the transparency, simplicity that we kind of, with which we tackle benefits administration, he ended up offering life and disability, two things that he unfortunately had employees that had to use in the past 8 months. And he just said, without Zenefits and the kind of, again, simplicity that you have brought to benefits administration, I never would have offered those things to my employees. And so I think that there is, as an employer, you're obviously and as a startup or entrepreneur, you're very focused on building an awesome business. I think it's equally important to focus on your employees. And again, I think what I love most about our platform is we make that very easy. You don't have to really think twice about offering benefits. It's not going to take you hours at the end of your day. We sort of make it where people aren't choosing between executing and then providing their employees with these great things.
Yeah, I would definitely, I couldn't agree more with you. I think at the end of the day, you hear a lot about the importance of customer, and it's certainly true. But sometimes your first customers are your employees. And so the idea that we don't sometimes learn from our own employees and sort of, think of them and what they need to be happy being part of the Zenefits family, just the same as our customers are, is sort of something that people miss. What are some other things you think that maybe, if I were to start a company and I got ourselves to, what did you say, it was 100 to 1,000 or 2,000? What's the total number of
businesses on our platform?
Yeah, well, no, that a number of employees that's perfect for you guys.
Oh, we say about 2 to 1,000.
2 to 1,000. So if I got to that sort of 2,000 mark and I'm just starting to get to where we're starting to go into other markets and it's getting a little crazy, what would be your advice other than just checking out Zenefits? Like, what is some advice you might have for a founder as far as just to overall sort of increase their intelligence around the HR benefit space? A curveball at you.
I know. I don't know how I would answer that. I'm trying to bring it back to, I think, the importance of customer. Do you mind if I spin it that way a little bit?
Spin any way you want. I
Yeah.
think it's all helpful. I think we just look at it. A lot of us get to a point where we're outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know that I need to go to a service or like get help.
Yeah.
But like, that sounded terrible. Like, I need to get help. But like, I don't know if I'm there, but there's this like sort of feeling of where the ship is starting to shake a little bit.
Yeah.
And I guess they look at companies like Zenefits as a thought leader in this space.
Yeah, and I think at that stage you probably, or you should by then have an HCM or some sort of a platform that you're using. But I think I want to go back to like the advice piece around kind of things that we learned as a company. I think a big thing that we learned early was I think we tried to be all things to all people too quickly. An example of that came to mind was we built our own stock options product. We have since deprecated that, and we now have an awesome integration with eShares. But I think that especially when you're, it sounds, and everybody says it, it's sort of cliche, but like really stay focused. Stay focused on your customers, what they want. Stay focused on your existing products, making them better, seeking feedback from customers all the time. I think that's something that we have done a good job of, but something that we're doing even more of. And thinking about sort of, I was going to talk a little bit about go-to-market too, in terms of that.
So my next question was going to be, as we start to transition out of the conversation, where is go-to-market and where is the future going with Zenefits is kind of where we're heading.
Yeah, so I said product market fit is definitely the one thing that we still think is most powerful about our company. A few things that have changed. First, we're no longer leading with benefits. We are definitely leading with the HR platform, which is a difference. We changed our pricing model this year. We still have a free option, but it's now a tiered pricing model. So again, companies can decide what features they want and choose that tier. Another big change is our focus on channels and alliances, which is where I come in partnerships. So what are those community partners and other types of industries that we want to work with to help us grow? And then lastly, as a sales org, we were very much focused on inbound. We're now spending a lot more energy on outbound. We have boots on the ground in 6 key regions, including Chicago. So I'm excited. My colleague Ben Lazaroff is in the audience today. He's our local Chicago rep, but we see the value in meeting our customers where they are, especially in the bigger metropolitan areas, and building community around that and figuring out how can we be a thought leader in the HR benefits payroll space, and have a bunch of examples about how we're doing that in partnership with local organizations. Built In is an organization that we've partnered with here, among others. So Techweek, yeah.
So before we kind of conclude this, I'd love to know, like, just whether it's Zenefits or just the space in general, what are some of the cool things that you guys are starting to look towards in the future? I mean, this has been a big year for you. You guys have implemented a lot of changes. I'm sure the near future is a lot about making sure you're crushing it in those areas. But what are some of the other areas that you're kind of looking to as opportunity?
I think in addition to the changes in go-to-market, we'll continue to focus on user choice. That's really something that is important to us. I think also focus on data and how are we using data. We unveiled a benchmarking report benefits benchmarking report earlier this year, so helping companies understand in their region for their size, how do the benefits they offer compare to their competitors, and that's powerful information when it comes to recruiting. And so I think that's going to be another big push for us as well. And we are also moving offices, so that's exciting in San Francisco. And I think also
that's not scary at all.
Signals a big sort of rebirth for the company under Jay's leadership.
Which is also cool. I mean, again, I keep going back to the fact that you guys pivot because you are a startup, but in my head it doesn't feel that way sometimes. The pivots that you guys are going through and the same growth things that you're going through that we're going through, it's really cool, and I'm glad to see that things are going the way that they are. I love Zenefits. I think it's an awesome story. So why don't you kind of tell people where they can go to learn more about Zenefits, how they can get involved with Zenefits, anything that they can learn about Zenefits that they have not learned yet.
Yeah, talk to Ben. Raise your hand, Ben.
Talk to Ben, yeah. Ben's email is...
Zenefits.com, or I'll be around afterwards, but I know we're really the warm-up for ROM, so...
It's not a bad place to be, though, right? The warm-up for ROM.
You ready?
Cool. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much. This has been great.
Thank you.